It's a lie that you can control anything. It is definitely a lie that you can control the job market. If you're job searching right now, you're in the right place. Welcome to Land Your Next Job, the show that helps you move from ghosting and rejection to interviews and offers. I'm Erika Parker-Price, a certified career coach with a background in tech who has spent nearly a decade helping professionals land roles at companies like Microsoft, Google, and mission-driven organizations. Each week, I share what's actually working in today's job market, from LinkedIn and networking to how AI is reshaping hiring. You'll get clear strategies and inspiration so you can run this marathon without burnout or guesswork. Follow the show and let's land your next job together. Hello and welcome to the episode where we are diving into the controller as part of our journey through positive intelligence. As always, go back to episode 9 if you didn't hear my introduction to this. I will be back next week with totally different topics, but I appreciate you being on this 10-day journey with me. If you haven't taken the quiz yet, you can take it at my website. It is free. It only takes 5 minutes. erikaparkerprice.com/PQ. This Saboteur, the controller, is another one that is near and dear to my heart, only because I scored super high on it when I first took the PQ quiz. I will say it's still in my top 3, although the good news is the more of this work that you do, the more that you can bring those numbers down. It's never going to move to the middle or the bottom of my list, but that's okay. We embrace who we are. Now, let's talk about the good things about having a high tendency towards the controller saboteur. People with this tendency are confident, they are action-oriented, they are very decisive and persistent. They get things done. They see possibilities in both themselves and others that can be very motivating. They're somebody that likes to challenge others to rise to the occasion. That is probably literally the reason that I started my career reset program and that I do this podcast. And finally, people with this tendency will do the right thing no matter what, even if it's unpopular. So if you need somebody who's going to take a stand and do the right thing, no matter what everybody else says, this is your person. Now, with all of that strong energy and sense of doing what's right, you can imagine that they probably run into some problems as well. So they have a strong need to take control and take charge, and they tend to connect with others more through competition, challenge, and conflict than some of the softer emotions. They can be confrontational, and they definitely push people beyond their comfort zone. In terms of the thoughts that drive them, there is this black and white thinking around being in control. You are either in control or you are out of control. And of course, there are many shades of gray in between, but it can be a drive to stay in control because the fear is that you back off a little bit, that you completely fall out of control. There's a belief that enough hard work can make everything go their way, and also a belief that other people want them to take control. Now, those of you who are not high in this tendency are probably shaking your heads at this and saying that's not at all true, but a controller doesn't like to be told what to do, so that's a thought as well. Nobody can tell me what to do. Not surprisingly, the feelings that can come up around these thoughts include things like anxiety, anger, impatience, and a feeling of being hurt or rejected. That's actually not something that they would readily admit, but when they can't get people on board and they aren't able to take control of the situation, that's where those feelings of hurt show up. Now, on to the lie. The saboteur is always there waving their hands metaphorically in our minds to convince us that this is the one way, the true way of doing everything. The controller lie is that if the controller was not there, you would never get anything done. You have to push people. And that I am really just trying to get this done for the better of the whole group. There's a fear that if you're not in control, you will be controlled, and the controller just doesn't want to accept that. Since those lies turn out not to be true, there are, of course, impacts. The controller can be very successful at temporary results, but the cost can be very high. Others don't like to be controlled and can be resentful at not being able to tap into other ways of getting things accomplished rather than just letting the controller do it. Additionally, there can be a lot of feelings of anxiousness and other negative feelings related to the dissatisfaction of not being able to control the situation. It's a lie that you can control anything. It is definitely a lie that you can control the job market. I've already done a whole episode on the only thing that you get to control, and that's your thoughts. The controller 100% wants to be able to control other people. They want to be able to control the timeline. They want to be able to control the companies, the market, everything. Everything feels out of control, which can lead to great dissatisfaction and can sabotage the whole process. That's what we're talking about here, right? How do these saboteurs show up for you, and what are they holding you back from? With the level of stress that the controller experiences when they aren't able to control a situation, it's obvious to see how this can be sabotaging the job search. And much of it can really be an internal feeling. It isn't so much that they aren't doing anything. The person with the controller tendency is not procrastinating. They're not even necessarily worrying. They're just trying, and trying in vain frequently because they are trying to control the uncontrollable. When I have an opportunity to coach somebody else who is experiencing this, I work on shifting the focus of what they are trying to control. It is an acknowledgement that everything external to you is out of your control, and that recognition that the most benefit you can have is to control your own mind. Again, this takes us right back to the PQ reps. It is no surprise that the end of each of these episodes is that the PQ reps are the way. So whether you call them PQ reps, however you like to do them, my hope is that what you're gathering out of this is that a focus on your mind is a powerful way to walk through this job search. Yesterday, I shared one of my morning rituals on how I do PQ reps on all 5 of my senses in just a single minute. I am going to share one of my midday practices, and quite frankly, one of my favorite ones that I share with clients. It includes all 5 senses. It is best if you can do this one outside, but you can honestly do it anywhere. So you are welcome to try it now in the present, or if you are driving or somewhere where this doesn't make sense, that's okay. The ones that are going to have the most success are people that listen to podcasts while walking. We all know that sitting at our desk all day can have such negative impact on our body and our minds. And so I do try to get up in between coaching calls. Even better than getting up and walking around my house is to go outside. And I have 2 little dogs that motivate me to do that very often. But here's the exercise I do when I go out. I pay attention one by one to each of my senses. And I start with 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. Now, I want to caution you and say this is not about cognitively thinking about it. It is not about going outside and saying, oh, I see the daffodil that's pushing up through the ground. That must mean it's spring. No, you are simply just noticing, just seeing it. If you hear an airplane going overhead, you're just paying attention to the sound of that airplane. You're not wondering where it's going. Okay? So it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. If you do them in a different order, that is completely fine. Any order works. I find it works best if you take something out with you that you can taste, because I usually don't want to taste anything that's out there unless I have some good fruit growing on a tree or something. But it is a good way to completely forget whatever it is I've been doing for the last hour and to disconnect from my calendar and anything that I have ahead of me. I am not trying to control anything in that moment. And the PQ reps really calm all of your saboteurs. While we are going through all 10 of these saboteurs, I will tell you it doesn't matter which ones you have. The only reason to really break it down is because it can be helpful to get you to recognize them. The process is the same no matter what the negative thought is, to go ahead and shift over to the sage perspective. That happens automatically once you interrupt the negative thought and take command of your brain. I know that those of you that are practicing these along with me are getting stronger with that self-command muscle of your brain. And I thank you for coming along on the journey with me. We are going to round out the week with talking about the 3 saboteurs that start with hyperachiever, hypervigilant, and hyper-rational. Thanks for being here. That's a wrap for this week on Land Your Next Job. If this episode helped, please leave a quick review and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend in transition, and I'll see you next Monday. Let's land your next job together.